When you talk about making all kinds of money, that's you. That's the ego talking. When you talk about taking care of your family and creating a legacy and, some of those kinds of things, now you're talking about a higher purpose vision. When you focus on that, the rest of it will take care of itself.
Hello and welcome to Delusional. I'm your host, Michelle Coyle, and I'm here with my friend Mike Ferrell. Mike, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike Ferrell. Welcome, or thanks for having me, Michelle. I have gone from the PGA Tour many, many years ago to the seminary, to studying for the priesthood, to becoming a business coach and consultant for nearly 40 years. I've worked with thousands of businesses in all kinds of different areas. So that's me.
What a legend. We're so happy to have you on the show. And I'm sure you're going to have some very good stories for us. But let's start with, you went from being on the PGA Tour to almost becoming a priest. Tell us about that little transition.
Yeah. Well,
what was going through your mind?
Again, this is, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But I decided that I started in the Air Force, got out of the Air Force and decided to chase the PGA Tour, and did that for about 2.5 years. And then realized that I wasn't going to become the next Jack Nicklaus, and figured I probably better go get a real job. So worked for a little while, and then decided I had sort of an inkling of the priesthood when I was in high school. And so at that point decided that I wanted to check that out. And so I went into the seminary and studied in the seminary for 5 years. I was about a year short of being ordained a deacon. And at that point decided that the celibacy thing really wasn't a great deal for me. So
I was like, should I ask if it was the celibacy? Maybe that's a rude question, but I wanted to know. So I'm glad you said it. You got 5 years in before you realized celibacy was an issue? Well, good for you. So then you say, you know what, not for me. Then what'd you do?
Well, then I actually spent 2 years in education. My degree was in education and history, and along with the required theology and philosophy. But spent 2 years in education, but it was in Catholic education. And I was working for 3 different parishes and 4 different priests. And basically, I spent 2 years refereeing 4 priests who couldn't get along with each other. So I'd put on my striped shirt and grab my whistle every morning and go off to work. And then after 2 years of that, decided that was enough of that. And so then at that point, I had made a lot of connections when I played golf for a living, and was able to reconnect with some people, and decided I was going to go into the coaching and consulting business way back, almost 40 years ago, before anybody even knew what a business coach was. And my first client happened to have deep pockets and did exactly what I suggested they do. And we hit a home run. And from that point on, I got pretty popular. And that was primarily in the golf industry. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, you're going to have to teach me how to find the client with deep pockets that does exactly what you tell them to do. Because I feel like I've had deep pockets and I've had do what I tell them, but maybe never in the same person. And you are known as the business monk. And why are you known as the business monk?
Well, about 8 years ago, I had, maybe we'll back up a little bit, and I'll tell you how I got there first. In 2008, I published my first book, and right before the financial crisis hit. And so when the financial crisis hit, I was working with, I think, 37 different community banks and several hundred financial advisors all over the country. And the morning of September 15th, I had flown from Minneapolis to Charlotte, North Carolina to meet with clients, and left at 6 a.m. and got off the plane about 9:15. And when I turned on my BlackBerry, it blew up. There were messages and texts and emails and all kinds of stuff. And walked into the terminal. When I walked into the terminal, I could see people standing around TVs. And of course, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, did we have another 9/11? And well, as it turned out, 15 minutes prior to that, Lehman Brothers had filed for bankruptcy, and that was the tipping point for the financial crisis. And so up until that point, my work had primarily been helping people succeed, helping them make more money, helping them get more market share, all of those kinds of things. And that day, everything changed. And for the next basically 2.5 years, I really was talking people off of ledges, trying to help them figure out how to survive this thing and how to get through it. And some of them did, some of them didn't. But after 3 years into that, by that point, it had pretty much burned me out. And I went through kind of a difficult time. I went through a divorce, dealt with depression, a lot of other issues that I was dealing with, and I decided I needed to just step away and kind of figure out what my next move was going to be. And in that period of time, I had done a lot of reading and reflecting and that kind of thing, and I came across this document called the Rule of Benedict. And the Rule of Benedict was written by a monk 1,500 years ago, and it immediately grabbed me because it is a blueprint on how we live and work in community. And when you strip away the stuff that's designed for the monks and really start looking at how it applies to our world today, it's a fascinating document. And so what I began to do is really delve into that. And as I did that, I also got an opportunity to start building an executive leadership program at a Catholic university here in South Dakota. And so as I was building that program, we really began to look at, okay, how does this impact business? How does this impact business leaders? And so I began incorporating these principles into my work as a coach and consultant. I wrote 2 more books after that. One was kind of a reflection on the financial crisis called The Sweet Spot. And then the third one was where I actually took those Benedictine principles and applied them to sales. And that one's Sell Like a Monk. So that's kind of how I got known as the monk guy. And everything that I do now, everything that I teach, everything I talk about, you've heard me speak, obviously, and everything that I do is based on those Benedictine principles.
I love it. Okay, can you teach us one little principle about how to sell like a monk on the spot?
On how to sell like a monk? Okay, sure. One of the things that I do with
teach me some. I want to sell like a monk.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I do with Sell Like a Monk is really focus on the idea of stability. And stability is a big principle of the Benedictines. Well, one of the keys to stability is making sure that we are our best selves when we come to selling. Okay. And so many times sales organizations, industries, those kinds of things, they try and put a square peg in a round hole. And what I mean by that is they don't utilize the God-given strengths and talents that we have as individuals. Rather, they try and create that person that they think should be. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll take their top performer, whoever's knocked it out of the ballpark, and say, well, all you got to do is follow this person's lead. If you do exactly what they do, you're going to be successful. Well, that's a bunch of BS, quite frankly. And it really is not the case. And if we, from a sales management perspective, from a sales leadership perspective, if we allow people to play to their strengths, to do the best that they can do utilizing their strengths, they're going to be much more successful. So that's one of the principles of stability that I teach and talk about.
Yeah. And I love the concept of stability in sales. I feel like, especially, and you know this because you coach people now that are just coming in to business, and sales is not always the easiest part to train
That's
them.
Right.
You and I have this in common, right? I don't know about you, but I imagine you see a lot of, I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to bother people. I don't want to, and then a lot, but I got to have a sale. I've got to have a sale. And you've got this combination of scarcity and just like need and anxiety. And I call it old Gil, which is a Simpsons reference that nobody gets anymore because I'm getting too much older than my clients and they don't. But this neediness coupled with the and I don't feel comfortable doing it. And the result is we don't sell anything. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think it's so important that salespeople understand. Well, one of the biggest things is that a lot of times the sales training and development that's out there is so tactical. It's, if you use this approach, and if you say this, and if you do this, and it's all tactical. But in reality, sales is a relationship. It's a relationship with the individual that you're talking with. And the key to that relationship is that you got to listen. Benedict has a great line. It's the opening line of the rule that says, listen with the ear of your heart. And it means to listen with empathy, with compassion, with understanding.
Yeah.
And in a sales situation, that's step number one.
Every time. And I have an 8-week sales course that I train, and then I'll tell my clients, look, this whole 8-week course could be summed up in be yourself, be curious.
Yeah.
That's it. Exactly. Because the second you get put in a situation that is now sales, it's like you got brain snatched by aliens, and all of a sudden what am I supposed to say? If Mike says this, then I'm supposed to say this, and where's my script? And
right.
And they get all in their head and they get all freaked out, instead of just saying, I'll say, well, what do you want to say?
Right.
What do you want to know?
Right.
What's the next question you want to ask? Because based on what they said, you must be curious about something. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if it was celibacy that caused you to leave the seminary, right? Right. I've got a question in my head.
Right. Yeah.
Say the question in your head and then let them talk, and then until a new question comes into your head, and then say that that question. This really isn't rocket science.
Yeah, exactly.
People need to feel heard, and I think this is where I can kind of help get this across sometimes to some of my clients that are freaking out about this. Is like, you are an expert in X thing, right? The person on the phone with you, they took their time to get on the phone with you. Like, they want to be on the phone with you. Otherwise, they would have made some excuse. They would have said, no, thank you, whatever. They're on the phone with you, or they're on the Zoom with you, or they're having coffee with you, or what have you, because they want to be in a conversation with somebody who understands this thing.
Yeah.
You are the person who understands this thing. They want to vent. Usually I'll say something like, why did you want to talk to me today? And they will go for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because finally somebody who understands.
Yeah.
Like you, I coach entrepreneurs, and a lot of times entrepreneurs are lonely. They're isolated. They're not necessarily with family and friends who know a lot about what their life is like. Yep. And they're so happy to talk to someone who understands.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. Yep.
It's like, if all I can do is just be that for them for an hour, I did something great with my day.
And whether or not they engage with you in a business relationship or not, the fact that you've given them that time, you've given them that space to let you know what's on their mind. And I think that's so important, that we want to have the outcome before we want to have the conversation. And so that's where I think it gets so challenging, is that with people that, and it doesn't matter what you're selling, it gets so challenging in that you want that sale. Like you said, it's that abundance versus scarcity. You want that sale so bad that you forget about the fact that, gee, maybe you ought to find out, number one, why they're even having a conversation with you. And we kind of lose that one.
Well, and are they even someone you want to work with, right? Is this a client that I want to work with? This is somebody that
I'm very fortunate. After doing this for 40 years, I get to work with the people that I want to work with. And I don't have to take every single thing that comes down the trail. So, if you're not having fun working with the people that you're working with, then maybe you ought to go think and find something else.
And I'll tell you, like, that's the one principle that when I first started business coaching 10 years ago, I don't have 40 like you, I got 10. That took my business within a few months from 10K a month to 100K a month, was I put some standards in place. And one of the standards I said was, I only work with people I love. And if I don't love you by the end of this phone call, like, I use the word love very liberally, Mike, not everybody does. But it's like, if I'm not rooting for you, if I'm not on your side, if I'm not feeling like, oh yeah, I totally want to help Mike do this thing and achieve this dream, and I can see it too, and let's go, and I'm on your team. If I don't feel that way by the end of our hour, I'm not working with you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the other piece, I think, is that, and it gets along the line of this whole idea of stability. So many times, and especially with younger people today, they always think that the grass is greener on the other side of the hill. If they don't get the immediate results that they think they need, then they go find something else. And again, Benedict talked about this. He called those people gyrovags, one of my all-time favorite terms. And gyrovags were the monks that would show up at a place, a monastery or an abbey or whatever, and they'd hang around for a few weeks and realize, it's a little too strict for me here. I'm going to go someplace else. And so it's the same way in our society today, I think. And it's not just salespeople, it's employees all the way across the board. It's those people that say, you know what, I'm going to give this a try for 6 months, and then I'm going to go see if I can find something else. And I think it's a real problem. As business owners and entrepreneurs, it's a huge problem, because we know that getting people engaged, number one, and then retaining them is crucial to the success of any business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And sticking it out when it gets hard. So I want to go back to something you said, because you were talking about coaching through the '08 financial crisis, and some people made it and some people didn't.
Right.
And I was immediately thinking about, like the two hardest years that I've had as a business coach were during when COVID first hit, and everybody was panicking and no one knew what to do that year. And then actually last year was really tough. There was a lot going on that threw a lot of people off their game, and financial uncertainty and things like that. And similarly, it's like you start to see the attributes of someone who's going to get through this and somebody who's not going to get through it. So tell us, what do you see? What do the people who get through it have in common?
The interesting, and actually the second book that I wrote, it's called The Sweet Spot, Where Business Strategy, Positive Psychology, and Faith Principles Converge. And as I reflected over those that made it and didn't make it over that period of time, those were the three things that I found were consistent, in that they had good strategy. They had good business strategy and they executed it. Secondly, and most of them didn't know it at the time, but most of them were utilizing positive psychology. They were creating environments that people wanted to be part of. They were creating positive environments. They were creating what Kim Cameron calls positive deviance. And so they were doing great things in their organization to keep people engaged and keep them there, and also to attract, clients. The third thing was the one that surprised me a little bit, actually, and that's the faith principles. They were rooted in some type of faith principle. They were rooted in that, and that was their stability. That was their rootedness, their groundedness, that they had that anchor, and they were able to execute from that position. And those were really the three things that I found as I kind of looked across that whole spectrum of all the different people that I worked with.
Let's talk about that faith thing, that faith thing that you spent all those years studying for a second. I feel like when I bring this into conversation with my clients, I've been a little bit sheepish, and I'll say something like, God or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it, but faith is so important in business, because if you don't have faith in something, that something's on your side, something's got your back, there's something that's going to help you out, something, someone, whatever you believe in, it is very difficult to get through those hard times. And we all have them. I mean, Mike, obviously you've been through many of them in 40 years. There have been lots of times where maybe other people would have quit and you stuck through it.
That anchoring into our faith. I'm Catholic, and I'm openly happy to talk about being Catholic. I love being Catholic. And so, but I think the thing about it is, it doesn't matter what the religion, the denomination, whatever. I think if you don't have some anchor to a higher purpose, a higher being, whatever you want to call it, I call it God, whatever that is, I think it's really, really difficult to really, when times get hard, to really figure out, how do I anchor into something that's more than I am? I've seen entrepreneurs and business leaders. It was all about me. It was all about the ego. It was all about, what they were going to do and how much money they were going to make, and, all the things that were going to be successful. But when it went downhill and they didn't have those faith principles, they didn't have those anchors, man, they went downhill in a hurry. And I see that a lot. And unfortunately, in today's world, I see that more and more, because I think one of the reasons why, and I think, the other thing that's interesting is faith also allows us to be nice to each other. It allows us to listen to each other and to try and understand each other. And there's so much today that's not happening. It's all of the divisions that we see in the country and the world and all those kinds of things. And the people that drive me nuts are the ones that are, claiming they've got faith, but theirs is the only way. And if you're not theirs, then you're totally against them. That's not how faith works. And it's certainly not how God works, So I think that's the thing that's really interesting to see today, in that if you don't have those faith principles, I think it's very difficult to maintain the course, especially when it gets tough.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And if you like, I like how you said, it's anchored in being part of something bigger than you.
Yes,
Because if it's just about you, there's going to be times where it's not going well. And then if you tie your business identity to your personal identity,
right,
it becomes the business is failing, then I'm a failure. If I, and I'm somebody who's made a lot of money and lost it, Mike. I don't
right,
know if you know that
right.
about me, but
Yeah,
it's like, if I felt like that meant I was a human personal failure, that's when you get into some serious
right.
stuff. That's where you get into the suicide rates among
Exactly.
entrepreneurs and all of that.
Yep,
When you go, you know what, this is a test, I'm learning something.
exactly.
And for me, I'm Jewish,
Yep.
so
Yeah,
I also
exactly.
call
Yeah.
God,
Yep,
God.
exactly. That's
For
exactly
me,
right.
it's there's a path. I believe this. I have a deterministic faith. I believe there's a path. I believe there's something that I'm supposed to do. I believe free will is like, what shirt do I get to put on in the morning?
Right,
But other than that, there's a path for my life. And so when things get difficult, I fall back on that. And I'm not saying tell anyone listening or watching, I'm not telling you to believe
right,
that. I'm just telling you what I
right.
believe.
Yeah,
Right. It helps me because I go, okay, this is something I'm supposed to be experiencing
yeah,
because there's something I'm supposed to learn. And I've been doing this long enough to know that some of my most painful experiences are so helpful when I'm talking to other people. They give me empathy.
right,
They allow me to say, "Hey, here's what I did, so maybe you can avoid it."
right,
Even
right,
it
right.
makes me a better coach, a better leader, a
Yep,
better mother, a
yep.
better person because I've gone through these hard things. And when I'm praying, I'm saying, "Utilize me.
Yes,
Like I'm
absolutely,
here.
absolutely.
I'm a tool, for lack of a
And,
better word."
and that brings up a great point because prayer, I think, too many times, um, when people pray, it's just this rote thing that they're saying. But real
Mhm,
prayer is when we ask and then listen. It's when we
mhm.
find that silent space to say, okay, God, what do you want to do with me here? And try and listen and get that response. And so I think it's so important to have that. And, we talk about, I mean, you and I have been through some of the planning sessions that I do with folks and that kind of thing. And, one of the things that I always start with when we do strategic planning is what's your higher purpose vision?
Yeah,
What means more than anything beyond yourself?
yeah,
What's your business designed to do beyond yourself? And I think
yeah,
when people begin to think about that and begin to think about doing something for some other reason than themselves, all of a sudden they can anchor in. And there's all kinds of scientific research behind that concept that's been done that says those businesses that have that higher purpose vision will outperform their peers and their competitors significantly. So it's not only
yeah.
just, woo woo, feel good. It's also, hey, this actually drives results.
Well, so much of doing well in business is sticking it out through the
Yeah,
hard things and never quitting before the miracle happens and all that, right? Like if you're in business for any length of time, you're going to have good years and you're going to
yeah,
have bad years. And if you quit when you have a bad year, you're not going to have the same trajectory as somebody who stuck it out and was, still in it 10 years, 20 years later, right? You and I are both business coaches. The coaching industry has taken a nosedive in the last couple of years. And there was a boom around COVID. I told you I made a lot of money
mhm,
in that boom. Like I'm not shitting on that in any way. That
right,
was
right,
great.
right,
And then it got harder. And what you see now is all of the folks who piled into the coaching industry during COVID because they said, "Oh, I can make a lot of money online."
right.
If that was their whole goal, was that revenue goal, they're out.
Yeah,
They're getting out.
yeah,
And the people that are still in it, people like you and me, it's 'cause we love it.
right.
And I would coach for free.
Oh yeah,
You still have to pay me, guys, if you're going to hire me to coach you.
yeah,
I still have a kid in college. You still have to pay me. But like outside of that, like I would do this for
yeah,
free. I love this. I am going to do this for the rest of my life. And I know saying that there are going to be years that I make a lot of money and maybe years that I
right,
don't. And I'm okay with that because that's not what it's about for me. It's about witnessing personal transformation and being a small part of somebody's life trajectory and
right.
life path.
Yeah, I agree
And
100%.
it's the coolest thing in the world. I couldn't do anything
Right.
else. What else would I do?
Well, like I said, I've been doing it for 40 years, so it's I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of trajectories and I've seen a lot of flaming crashes, but
No.
I think the thing
Yeah.
about it is, and you're exactly right. I would do this for free, and in fact, sometimes I do it for free because if I see somebody that I think really wants to get to where they're trying to get to, they don't have the means to pay for me and what I do, but it's like, you know what? Every so often, you've got to give that away, and you've got to just trust
Yeah.
that that's going to come back threefold to do. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's okay. But I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy doing it, and I typically will do it for a couple people a year where it'll be, okay, I understand you can't afford this, but I'm going to do this for you. And someday maybe you'll do something for somebody else like that. You'll pass it on.
Yeah. I do the same. My frame has been, I jokingly say the first one's free, but it's like, I'll talk to anybody for an hour.
Yeah.
And I'll help you out the best I can. And then if there's a fit, then great. I am not in the position to like do ongoing coaching engagements for free at the moment. But I'll talk to anybody for an hour. And I've started utilizing social media more for this. The podcast is part of this as well. This show is part of this because I had so many people calling me and saying, I would love to work with you. I don't have any money. I can't afford it. And oftentimes that came with this sense of, because my circumstances are X, Y, and Z, so I'll never be able to A, B, and C, which of course we hate. I said, look, let me create an entire show. This is a gift. I don't make any money from this podcast, Mike. It cost me money to make this podcast, but it's a gift to say, look, I am going to bring on a series of the most inspiring people that I know. And I want to show you that you can actually come from behind, that you can actually overcome whatever circumstances, you can do extraordinary things. That's the whole premise of Delusional. So I'm doing that. And then I'm also I just started this social media series on the 1st of January. So we're recording this on the 13th of January, where every single day I'm doing a 30 days to start a cash flowing business series.
Oh, cool.
What is super cool right now that's never been true before is like, you can start a business with like no money. Oh, yeah. Like when I started business coaching 10 years ago, that wasn't true. Yep. That's true now.
Yep.
You can get, for $20 a month or $40 a month, you can get on AI tools that'll build your website, do everything. And so I'm giving people tasks that are, 5 to 30 minute a day tasks for the month.
Sure.
And if someone were to follow along with this series and do all of these tasks, they would have a cash flowing business by the end of the month. Yeah. Now, I am very interested to see if anybody actually does this. I'm giving away the game here a little bit, but also I think by the time this episode comes out, the 30 days will be over. So it's okay. Because I want to be able to look back and say, hey, I gave it to you for free. Yeah. I gave you the game plan. Yeah. If all you wanted was the game plan and how to follow it, I gave it to you for free. Why didn't you do it? There's something else that's going on there beyond just you don't know how to do it, right?
Right. And I don't think there's any question that you see that all the time. And then, just because you give them the blueprint doesn't mean, and even give them the tools, here's the blueprint, here's the hammer and nails, but they can't figure out how to get the hammer back and use it, and I think that's where the coaching aspect comes in. That's where people begin to realize that I can't do this on my own. I'm going to need some help. And I think that's really something that, that I try and do, is to really make sure that they understand the interior work of being an entrepreneur. The interior work of being a leader is really so important, because if you don't get that right, nothing else matters. And I think that's the fun part for me. And then, some of those things are some of the things that I talk about on my podcast, which is, been a real fun exercise for me as well. So,
yeah, it's so important. And, it's not sexy to lead with, if you do this, if you go on a business growth journey, you are going to go on a personal growth journey. And the real win, no matter how much money you make, is the person that you become in the process. The person that you need to become to make $1 million, and to make $10 million, and to make $100 million is worth multiples of that amount of money. Right. And if I wish I could just send marketing messages that said that. No, everybody wants to say, well, how do I make $1 million? Like, okay, here's how to make $1 million. And secretly, here's the person that you're going to become. Because that's what I'm in it for. I'm in it for the personal growth transformation.
Right, exactly. And that making $1 million thing, I mean, that comment's been around longer than I've been around. And it's like, if that's all you're trying to do, then go do something else, because it's not going to happen. And that's and I've had a lot of conversations with people that have done startups and have worked with many of them. And it's like, if you're purely going to do this business or whatever it is you're going to do to make money, then you know what? You probably better go find someplace else. If you don't have a clear why you're going to do this, and it's something other than money, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. Go punch a time clock somewhere and go do your thing, because you will be. And of course, there's the reason why 94% of all businesses fail in the first 2 years. And that's it right
Yeah.
there.
That is it right there. And for folks watching and listening, like the why, it might be a big grandiose vision. It could be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
So many times, so many of my clients are successful when their why is, I want my spouse to be able to retire from the job that they hate. I want to be able to make sure that my kids are taken care of. I want to be able to spend more time with my kids. I want flexibility in my lifestyle so I can be with my family. Like that is a big why too.
Right. And I think those are higher purpose visions. Those are things that are beyond yourself. When you talk about making all kinds of money, that's you. That's the ego talking.
Yeah.
When you talk about taking care of your family and creating a legacy and, some of those kinds of things, now you're talking about a higher purpose vision. When you focus on that, the rest of it will take care of itself.
I love that you mentioned the legacy. That's been a word that's been bopping about in my mind because I am building out the entire delusional universe now. Just spoiler alert, the podcast was just the first step, you guys. Building out, and Mike's seen it. I drew a whole mind map out a couple of weeks ago. I was like, look at my delusional universe. It was
I love it.
Magic markers and poster board, you guys. It'll take you far. But I've been refining that message and thinking about, who are these exact people that I want to attract into the delusional universe? And the word legacy keeps coming up. It's people with big visions that would like to do some kind of legacy work, something that matters, something that like after they're gone is going to stick around. What can you teach us about legacy?
Well, I think legacy happens in and of itself. It doesn't happen because that's what you want. I think that's really important to understand, is creating a legacy happens because of what you do, not because that's what you want. And so it's really, really important to understand that, yes, I know we all want to create a legacy. We all want to leave something behind that people will remember and that kind of thing. But that's not the idea. The idea is let's create something that matters, that's meaningful, that's going to change people's lives now. And if we do it right, that'll create the legacy. And so I think that's the aspect of it. I've always looked at my business like, how many people can I help? How many people can I help get them to where they want to be? That's how I create a legacy. Not like, okay, now I got to do, write 17 more books and do 3 more podcasts and, post stuff all over social media. And then I'll have all of this content. That's my legacy. Well, that's not really a legacy. The legacy is how many people have I impacted?
And you've been doing this 40 years. How many people have you impacted?
It's a bunch.
Thousands and thousands.
It's a little hard to measure anymore because you just don't know who you're impacting. When you get the like your podcast and my podcast, we don't know who that's going to impact. And I think that's what's so cool about the world today. 40 years ago when I started with this, it was one-on-one, and those were the opportunities that you got to impact. Today, you could impact anybody all over the world just because of technology.
That's right. And that's my favorite thing about social media. And I know it's unpopular that I love social media, but I do. I know it's not everybody else's favorite. I love it. And the reason I love it is because I put out my messaging consistently. And every single day I get between, 1 and 3 people that come into my DMs and just say, I saw what you wrote that really resonated with me. That meant something to me. Thank you for posting that. And it's, sometimes it's somebody that I haven't talked to in 10 years. Sometimes it's somebody that I met at my cousin's wedding that one time. It feels seemingly out of the blue. And it keeps me going because I'm like, oh yeah, this mattered to somebody. And that's all, like, I don't care if it mattered to everybody. That saw it today, if it mattered to somebody.
Yep, that's exactly right. And for me today is, how many people can I impact with the principles of the Rule of Benedict? How many people can I impact with what it is Benedict said, the 5 principles that I talk about: intention, stability, community, excellence, and profound hospitality? How can I impact those people with that? Because I really, truly believe that the Rule of Benedict can be the prescription for what the world needs today. The principles are all there. It's just a matter of us exercising on those principles.
Well, I want to talk about community for a second. You and I have met in a community that we're both involved in called Empire. I'm building out a delusional community now. I feel like community is just going to become more and more vitally important as the powers that be try to suck us all into living into the metaverse. I was talking on the last episode about how, it's easy to become a Wall-E character if you let yourself. And what's the antidote to that? It's getting together with real people, having real conversations in real ways, right? And as entrepreneurs, community is so vitally important. Especially when we're starting out, we're solopreneurs a lot of the time, or we have maybe some contractors, some AI tools. But I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of my days sitting by myself on Zoom in this room in my house.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I go to the gym, you know what I mean? And I'm an extroverted person. Yeah. And so it's if I don't get out and I'm going to have dinner with a friend tonight, if I don't find ways to get out and see real people, I start to go a little bit crazy.
I mean, I got to go to Starbucks first thing every morning because I got to have my people fixed then.
I too have developed a very basic bitch Starbucks daily habit. I'm not afraid to admit it. But yeah, sometimes it is just about going somewhere and seeing a couple of people before you go back into your little
as you think about community, there's a couple of different community obviously are the people that we surround ourselves with. But the other piece of community, especially when it comes to business, there's ever since COVID especially, there's one word in business today that if I hear it one more time, I think I'm going to throw up. And it's culture. Everybody's talking about culture, and there's a big difference between culture and community. And the story that I'll tell you is that several years ago, I bought a piece of unfinished furniture, and I'm kind of a moron when it comes to, doing any kind of handy stuff. So I brought that piece of furniture home and I thought, okay, I need to finish it, So I go to Home Depot and I get the pimply-faced kid and I said, okay, what do I need to do? And he hands me a can of varnish and said, yeah, just go brush that on. It'll look great. Perfect. I'll go do that. So I take it home. I brush the thing and it looks fabulous. 3 days later, all the varnish starts to peel off. And so now I go back to Home Depot and this time I get the old crusty guy and I bring back a third of a can of varnish. And I said, you guys sold me junk. This stuff isn't sticking on the wood. And of course, he gave me that look like, what an idiot. And he said, well, what did you do? I said, well, I just brushed it on. That's what the kid told me to do. He says, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to go home and scrape it all off. He said, I'm going to give you a can of stain. You're going to take that stain and you're going to take a rag and you're going to rub it in really well into the wood. And you're going to do that about 3 times. And then after it's dried really well, you're going to lightly sand it. And then you're going to take that varnish and put it on. And then it's going to look great. I liken community and culture to that. Community is the stain. It's the stuff that soaks in. If we don't have that foundation of community, there's absolutely no way you're going to have culture. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. Community is the idea of dignity. It's the idea of listening, of empathy, of compassion. All of those things, if you don't have that first, then the rest of it's not going to work. And I think all you have to do right now is look around the country and the world today. A lot of these programs, DEI and some of these other things that came out of, COVID and the George Floyd thing and all those kinds of things, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. They wanted to do those. And they thought, okay, we're going to change our culture. We're going to do all these kinds of things. And the purpose of them, nothing wrong with the purpose of them. But the problem is they tried to slap it on like varnish and it never stuck because the stain wasn't there to hold it. The community wasn't there to hold it. You have to have that foundation first.
It's interesting that you say that. I live right outside of Washington, D.C. It has been a hard year to live in Washington, D.C. We have all of our friends and neighbors getting laid off, lots of people moving away. For the first time, our economy has been threatened in a way that, everybody that lived here felt like this is a recession-proof place. The government's not going out of business. It's safe to invest in real estate around here and all those things. And the folks with the government jobs, it's like the opposite of entrepreneurs. They were like, I'm going to do the most secure thing possible because I'll never get fired from the government. So to have everybody, just getting wiped out like that, not only was that, catastrophic, the energy in the air has been tough, just lots of turnover, real estate market taking a nosedive, everything. But to see how my neighbors have come together has been life-changing. It has really warmed my heart.
Yeah.
We have a local Buy Nothing group in our neighborhood, and everybody, first it was just like, hey, does anybody have like a lawnmower I can borrow or something like that? But then it turned into, when everybody started getting laid off, it turned into, hey, I made dinner and I've got a bunch of leftovers if anyone's hungry. And I'm going to cry talking about that. It's been so beautiful to see how, in the face of hardship, our community has come together in a place that's not necessarily known for being neighborly. We're an East Coast big city.
Sure, yeah.
All of a sudden, the neighbors have turned to helping each other out, because at the end of the day, when we can't count on whatever's going on externally, we can start to come together and take care of each other.
Yeah.
It's been a really beautiful thing to watch.
That's very cool. I mean, this whole idea of community, I think, is, and I think especially today, like I said earlier, we are so divided in this world today. Community is what's got to bring us back together. And it starts with understanding. It starts with listening with the ear of your heart, those kinds of things, because if we don't have community, then we really don't have anything.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. What a legend. If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
My website is themonkguy.com. That's an easy one, and I've got a great podcast that we started last August called Resonance. And I actually do it with a Grammy-nominated singer and songwriter. His name's Steve Azar, and Randy Harrington, who's a PhD in organizational communications. And the podcast is Resonance, the Power of Song, Silence, and Strategy. So it's a really interesting take from the three of us. It's three completely different angles that we talk about leadership on. So resonanceleader.com is the podcast. And like I said, my website is themonkguy.com. So
awesome. Everybody go check out Mike and all his monkey stuff. And if you want to find me, I'm everywhere at Michelle Descale. Again, I'm not a big deal yet, so you can still get me in the DMs. That won't last forever, so do it while you can. Mike Ferrell, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's been great. Thanks.
Everybody, we'll see you next time.